Welcome to another exciting episode of the Million Dollar Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
So it only took 3.5 months, 3 months. We got a comment back in the end of June from Puddings Postcards. So thank you very much, Puddings. Subscriber and everything over here. And he wanted us to do this following as a topic. Good advice as usual. Have you ever done a video on what to do if one of your niches collapses, and how do you go about determining if it's temporary or permanent long-term? Take it away, Mr. Magazine.
So the niche itself collapsed, or not like...
Well,
I kind of got out of a niche.
Yeah, the niche itself is on its way down, and is it going to come back, and what do you do?
I'm trying to think what niches. Well,
sports cards would be a perfect example.
Yeah,
how many times have sports cards bubbled and fallen down?
Yeah, we did have a shop in the peak of sports cards in the 80s and 90s. We were one of the bigger shops in Rochester, and there's probably 10, 12, 15 shops.
There were a lot
in
of them
Monroe County
yeah.
at that time, and then as the 90s, late 90s, it just kept overproducing more and more and more. And we had we could buy directly from all the big companies too, so we had the product as cheap as anyone's going to get it at the time. And then after a while, Shaquille O'Neal came out in 1992. His cards were going for a fortune, and then as the years go on, they start plummeting just because there's so much of it out there. And eBay was around then, so I think they weren't flooding the market, but it was easier for you or me or anyone to get any type of sports card, so Shaqs were available and so forth. And he wasn't the only thing. Everything was overproduced, so the card market kind of just took a big nosedive.
Yes, it did.
And, we didn't get out of it, but we phased out. We didn't buy the stuff directly anymore. We had less customers coming in. We were trying to sell our old inventory of single cards, or if we had any unopened product at the time. And I think around 2000, not that we got out of it entirely, but it was like bare bones. We just had 1990, older cards from 1950 to 1990, nothing current. But then no one was really coming in for this stuff. And then the last, from 2000 to, say, COVID, it maybe slowly got a little better. But again, I was into magazines and all that stuff at that point, doing eBay and Amazon. So, my focus was on those platforms, my own website. And, I didn't have the sales, so I'm investing money into these sports cards again when they've already plummeted, and now they're going up again. I don't have customers coming in, so COVID comes. COVID happens. What year was it? 3-4 years ago.
2020, yeah.
And then people start selling me blaster boxes because they became hot. People had their money, they wanted to buy stuff, so we got back into it. I wouldn't say heavily, but a lot heavier than we were. But we had customers coming in and so forth. And then after COVID, it kind of, for us, it plummeted again. No one was coming in, or in the hot product all of a sudden plummeted. So I'm like, why am I going to do this again? I've already learned my lesson. This is the second time. And now you're only talking a couple card shops in Rochester, 2 or 3 maybe. If you even considered my shop a card shop, which people do because we do have single cards available, but we don't carry a lot of product because you're buying a box for 20, selling it for 25, or you're buying a box for 100, selling it for 120, or a hobby box, you could pay 1,000 and sell it for 11 or 1,200, And we just didn't get into it. And then there was the breakers. So it seems like everything's separated. Like, it was either, there's no middle class card buying anymore. It's either poor or rich. The hobby box were thousands of dollars. Breakers were getting tons of money. So, and I just stayed away from it. Again, if someone came in with $1,000 in cards, they want $900. Where if I'm buying $1,000 movie or magazine collection, I can buy it for $100.
Right.
So I'm like, it's a no-brainer for me to keep buying the movies and magazines and stuff that I'm making my high profit on. So, for me, I got out of it because I saw it coming twice. And, I don't want to keep reinvesting. How would my dad say that? You're putting good money into bad.
Or you're following.
Yeah, so.
You're throwing good money after bad, yep. Yeah, and I think that just in general, Puddings, I think one of the big questions that I would have, or that you need to ask yourself, is what age you are. And by that I mean, if you're 72 years old and you're selling piano rolls, the niche is probably where the niche is, and it's may even be shrinking a little bit. You're probably not gonna learn Pokemon cards. you're 72. Just stay where you are and just ride it on out, and it doesn't matter because you've got all the expertise at that point, and you may be one of the 5 foremost experts in the world on piano rolls at this point. Who knows? If you're 25 and you inherit a lot of piano rolls, good for you. I would learn them, and I would have them as one of my niches, but I wouldn't necessarily go all in on that being my only niche, because I think you could make a living, but you're never going to really do overly well with just piano rolls. Find out what else is around there. When you get the calls for piano rolls, I guess we'll use piano rolls as the example, and you're 25 years old, and you do have a big lot of them that you inherited or you picked up, I would advertise the heck out of buying them. And when I got into the houses that have them, I'd see what else is there. And if you go into 5 houses and every one of those 5 houses has sheet music, every one of those 5 houses has something else, that would be the niche I would be focusing in as well, because you have an in to get the product.
Right.
And if you're just going to work with piano rolls, you can make a living, but that's about all you're ever going to be able to do on it. Whereas if you can get into that second niche, and it's probably not going to be the hottest niche in the world, which is probably not. Again, the piano roll people that are calling you to clear out the estates probably don't have the Pokemon cards in that instance. They just don't. But pull back a little bit more, if it's a niche that's, quote, hot, be it fidget spinners, be it Beanie Babies, be it something or other like that, you have to be able to read the writing on the wall. And if you see that it is collapsing, I probably would get rid of everything. And if you really do like selling the stuff, I'd get rid of it, get the cash, move into a different niche, and then slowly buy back into. In other words, say Beanie Babies were going for $10 a piece, and you see the market dropping. Get out of them at $5 a piece. Wait 3 years, and you can buy all of them you want for 50 cents a piece.
Exactly, yeah.
But you can become an expert on it at that
exactly.
point. You can make a living off of Beanie Babies as well, just knowing more than the other guy about them. And most people will look at them and go, oh, that's junk, and not want anything else to do with it.
Right.
Well, like anything else, there's good and there's bad in there.
Yeah.
You can become the expert on it. So I would say if it's a hot thing that's collapsing, run for the hills, and you can always buy back in later.
We always talk about things like coins will always be good, antique coins, because of the gold and the silver value.
Right, it's got the underlying value.
So there's always be something there 100, 200, 500 years from now. But like we talk about stamps, where it's a little different ballgame. I don't think there's any 20-year-olds collecting huge stamp collections. They're probably 60 to 80 years old. And what happens in 30 years when they all pass on? Is that market going to be hot? Sure, that upside-down airplane still might be hot because some investor collector may want it, but a majority of them may not be desirable at all anymore.
I guess if you are in the niche so deep that you can't get out, I would honestly at that point double down, believe it or not, double down, and become one of the 5 foremost experts in the world on it. Because there will be people, use stamps as an example, there always will be people collecting them.
Yeah.
And if you are one of the foremost experts on it, you can buy for pennies on the dollar, buy stamp collections out when they hit the market.
Yeah.
And you can pull the best 5, 10, 15, 25 stamps out of there and be like, oh, this is the rare, 8 perforated on the left from a coil and this is a $300 stamp.
Yeah, you throw some ads on social media all over the country, and there's probably not a lot of people doing that, so you might be the one that you can buy up everything pennies on a dollar.
Yep. So to summarize, if it's something or other that's super hot, but Beanie Babies type, get out as soon as you start noticing that there's a problem. You can buy back in later. If you're old, stay where you are. And if it's something or other that's had a long-term of collecting, like model trains, like stamps, I would double down at that point and become an expert on it. And again, you will always be able to make a living because there will be people that want the higher end stuff, and you're going to always know the high end stuff, and you'll have the opportunity to buy whole collections out for pennies on the dollar because nobody else around your area is really buying them.
Right.
And you can end up being the expert. However, the last thing is, say stamps, you are not going to make a living being in Rochester, having a stamp store with no online presence.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
You absolutely will need to have an online presence for that to work. You will. So if you are 65 years old, I don't like that there internet. Well, I guess 65 you can make a living, but if you're 25, yeah, it's not going to work. You better get on that internet,
Right.
because that's to become the foremost expert. You have to basically have a worldwide appeal
Sure.
and worldwide presence as well. So thank you, Puddings. And if anybody else has any ideas for videos, just let us know. We definitely try to put up videos you want, and we never know where they're going to go until about 2 seconds before we hit the camera and didn't know what we were talking about. So worked out really, really well. If you hit the like button, definitely would appreciate it. And we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.